Why is it always about beatbox battles?
Why is it always about competition?
Why is it always about us trying to prove ourselves?
Can't we just enjoy the art of beatbox for the sake of?
Why do we always have to make a winner and a loser out of someone?
Aren't we all winners at the end of the day?
Does this sound familiar? If so, welcome to the series again, Talkboxing with Stan. In today's episode 2, we'll be discussing whether beatbox battles are actually good or bad for our community. So if you want to find out, stick with me. Let's get into the video. Now, in order for us to understand whether beatbox battles is something good or bad for our scene, we have to understand why are beatbox battles such a big thing to begin with? Why is everybody so into it? Why is it so popular? Well, basically, next to the fact that competition is everywhere, basically sports, Olympics, breakdance, rap battles, you name it, like so Yu-Gi-Oh card competition, you name it. Even like seagull screaming in Belgium, that's also a competition, and even a championship, if I'm not mistaken. Separate from this, what I would also argue is that competition is something that's rooted very deep inside of us, See, to give you an example, or to make my point, basically nowadays we live in a very modern world where, we have cars, planes, technology, AI, Google Maps, like the most crazy inventions we have right now, which makes life super easy. But what I will argue, or the point I'm trying to make, is basically the reason why we have all of those things is partially because of competition. Because see, what is competition? Competition is basically us comparing ourselves to someone else and determining whether we are doing better or worse. And this played a huge role in our survival, in evolution. Because see, the reason why we have like the most crazy technology that we have right now is because of people always pushing themselves and competing with each other, saying like, oh my God, he's gonna outcompete me. No, I wanna go further. No, I wanna go further. And just never stops, the race just keeps on going. Like for, I don't know how many years we've been like alive now, since the Big Bang. And look at us, now we're like humans. What are we even? Humans. Now, separate from that, I want to go also like a layer deeper. Why competition is also so important to us, or something I found out to be true. And I think this is more of like an unspoken thing, but it's definitely present in our whole community. And basically what I'm talking here about is social relevance. The reason why we also want to have like competition or are super into competition is because competition determines whether you're relevant socially and also to what degree you're relevant. Now, the reason why I would argue this is true is because, see, again, to go back to our caveman thing, nowadays we have society, right? We have like a safe environment, we have police, we have ambulances, we have like first aid. We have everything at our disposal. Again, like society is a pretty safe place, at least in the Western world. It's way more safer than what it used to be back in the day, And I'm talking way back in the day, like when we were caveman and cavewoman. Because back in the day when we were caveman and cavewoman, there were no laws, there were no rules, like everybody could just do whatever they want. All we had was tribes, and inside of your tribe, you were safe, The other tribes, they were dangerous. And again, why does competition matter? Because inside of the tribe, you want to know who is relevant and who not. For instance, the leader of the tribe, he had like the most things to say and to decide how it would be. And someone who wasn't the leader, he didn't have much to say, That's what I'm trying to say with social relevance. Those dynamics are kind of also present in today's modern world. Maybe not in the same exact degree, but it's present everywhere. It's present in sports. For instance, like why is Cristiano Ronaldo way more socially relevant than, for instance, someone who, I don't know, is not so known? I mean, of course, because Cristiano Ronaldo is super good, he proved to be relevant by being super good. He proved to be relevant by being the best at what he's doing, or Messi, or you name it, the same with Usain Bolt, the same with, it's like people who are the best that prove to be socially relevant. And this plays a very huge role to our survival, because if you're socially relevant, that means you have access to the best people, to the people who are also relevant. You have status, you have fame, you have glory, you have attention, and so you have basically, very nasty said, power. That's what it comes down to. You have power, you're relevant, and that's important to note. Let me explain. Basically, let's say again the example of Cristiano Ronaldo. He's like the best of the world. He's like relevant, super relevant. He's very good. Now let's take someone else into the equation. Leo Messi. Like Leo Messi, they always used to have like this rivalry with each other, And then what happens is Messi wins this trophy, Messi wins this competition. And so what happens is Cristiano Ronaldo starts feeling a bit less worthy, a bit less relevant. Cristiano Ronaldo used to be like the most relevant football player. Suddenly Messi came and now he's not so relevant anymore. And see, at their level, I think it's not super relevant because they're both so relevant to the point that I think those two will be remembered in football history forever. Soccer history, if you're American, don't kill me, please, all Europeans. What I'm trying to say is like those two are super relevant, But let's say another example, maybe Iniesta, Who knows Iniesta? Andres Iniesta. Do you know Iniesta? I assume not. He's way less relevant than a Messi or a Cristiano Ronaldo. And reason why that's dangerous is because this gives opportunity for us to feel bad, not worthy, and worst of all, like create or develop low self-esteem. Because see, what is happening when we start to compare ourselves with others is basically that we start to like tie our performances to our self-worth. Meaning, my self-worth is equal to my performances. If I perform good, I'm worthy. If I don't perform good, I'm not worthy. And that's dangerous because, trust me, sooner or later, there comes a point where your performances will go down. You're not so relevant in that moment. You used to be relevant, not anymore. I mean, in the present speaking. And so what happens is like, if you tie that to your self-esteem, to your self-worth, then you will suffer, literally. Maybe your mental health will go down and maybe you'll feel depressed. Maybe you'll feel bad, like whatever. I'm not a mental health expert, but what I'm trying to say is it's dangerous because tying your performances with your self-esteem is something very probable to happen if you compare yourself with others, which happens a lot in competition because in order for you to compete well, you have to know if you're doing good or not. But at the same time, it can also like destroy your mental health. And for this, I have the perfect example. River. Not so long ago, River posted the following post where he actually mentioned or talked about his feelings about him losing a battle in the 1-1 beatbox battle in Carcassonne, France. Basically, what it comes down to is he lost. He lost to a biscuit. River lost to Biscuit. And see, here's the whole thing, River, GBB champion, 2023. He won in the most spectacular way ever. Second place in 2021. And so, River he's very relevant, even though, he's training in silence and you could maybe say like, okay, but he's champ from 3 years ago. But for the sake of my example, let's just say he's still very relevant, he's still like a huge innovator in our beatbox, in our solo beatbox community, And so he loses to Biscuit. Biscuit, also super good, USA champ, won took multiple times international second place, even for whatever, good international competitor, basically what I'm trying to say, okay? And so what happens is River lost to him. And River made a post mentioning how, back in the day, he would get affected by that, losing as a GBB champ to someone who's not a GBB champ, Nothing to take away from Biscuit. Biscuit is amazing, by the way. But, he mentioned how this would get to him. And now he found ways to learn to deal with it in a healthy way. Basically, him not letting his self-worth getting determined by his performances. Which brings me to my next point. Are beatbox battles toxic? If there is such a high probability of us, tying our self-worth to our performances and thus feel bad, depressive, negative, always being in this race, oh, am I good enough? Am I not? Is it toxic? Is it something bad for our community? The question becomes. And honestly, for me, the answer is no, it's not toxic. It's something very normal. See, it depends how you look at it. It can be toxic if you don't know how to deal with competition. And honestly, I'll speak from my experience. I used to feel the same way. Every time I lost a battle, it used to get to my self-worth. As a competitor, you have to be able to detach your self-worth again from your performances, because your performances don't determine your self-esteem and your self-worth. You're way more than that. You're a human being at the end of the day. We have intrinsic value way more than our performances. And so see, being able to not let performances get to you, even though that's the whole thing of competition, being able to improve relatively to your competitors, still you have to be able to detach when it's necessary, detach your self-worth from your performances. And one more thing on this, also, at the end of the day, if you think about it, the only real competition you have is the one with yourself, because see, what we do is, for the sake of like winning, we compare ourselves with others. And so what happens is like, I'm here, he's there, or no, maybe not yet. But at the end of the day, it's not an honest comparison. Because if you compare yourself with someone else, you first have to realize to begin with, at the first point, at basic level, level 0, basically, it's not possible to compare yourself with someone else because you're not that person. In order for you to make the most honest comparison, you need to compare the same things. Like my math teacher always used to tell me, you cannot compare an apple with an orange, they're both different. And so even though if you compare them, sure, like they are different and you can make like a comparison for the sake of, but at the end of the day, if you truly want to make an honest comparison, you cannot, because they're different. You have to compare an apple with an apple, and even then, every apple is different. Not every apple is the same. So the only competition you can have, let's say you're the apple right here, you are this apple, so this apple can only compare itself with itself, That's the only, and that's a healthy way how to deal with competition. Even though, like, it's cool to compare yourself with others. At the end of the day, like taking a step back and realizing like, oh my God, okay, wait a minute. I'm comparing myself with my past self. And the smallest amount of progress you make basically is a win. And so I feel this is a way more healthier frame to look at competition. Even though sometimes it's fun to compare yourself with others, at the end of the day, the only true comparison you can make is the one with yourself. So very important, something to keep in your mind. And also like at the end of the day, even like minus B underneath that is like you're a human being and you have value for the sake of just being a human being. And that's it. No discussion about you being worthy or not. If it's dealt like this, then yes, competition is healthy. Competition is worth it. Competition becomes this thing that pushes you further and not something that destroys your self-worth. And this, I would argue, to make my whole point, beatbox competitions, beatbox battles is something good. Now, that being said, I wonder, what do you think? What's your opinion on the whole situation? What do you think? Is it good or bad? Are there more positives than negatives? In my opinion, more positives, but again, depends on who you are and how you make it out of it, The reason why I'm making these videos is because I want people to talk about it and have conversations. Comments down below. Let me know what you think. I'm going to read everything. Appreciate you. Thanks for sticking. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Take care. All the best. See you.